So I watched another debate. Oh, I watched another debate. The next presidential debate between Kamala and Donald Trump. And here we go again. Um, they never like to answer the questions. I don't know what it is. Like Kamala was asked um, to define her statement of Trump not having a tariff, but having like a essentially tax, an additional tax, because the tariff would turn into a tax. She was asked specifically to answer that. She avoids it. Trump was asked, um, how would you stop the war in Ukraine? And he does answer it, kind of. He says that, oh, well, I would get Putin and Vladimir together and sit them down and have them figure it out. Thanks. Thanks, Trump. That is so helpful. That is really specific. And then he only gives you that concession after he said that it would have never happened in the first place if he was president, which is an unfalsifiable claim. There's no way to prove that. There's no way to. So it's like a useless statement. And then with the January 6th thing, do you regret this or that? It completely avoids that. Um, I think Kamala avoided some other things too. Then they got into the um, the whole race thing of Kamala identifying as black and etc. Like who who cares? I just can we can we talk about the debt in the country? Can we talk about how we're at what is it, $35 trillion? I think in the last like 3 months, I read an article the other day that we added like an extra like $600 billion. That's like three Elon Musks that we added in in 3 months. Like, what are we doing? And in the debates, we have a question about like, well, Trump wrongly accused you of being black, but they're not black, and that's a really important issue to the American people. And we're going to talk about that in our very limited sections that are really not long enough to give you any substantive answer in the first place, assuming they even answer the question. But we're going to talk about that instead of like the ballooning debt crisis that we have, or, how our military spending is like, I don't know, like 10 times as much as the next 10 countries, combined or whatever. But we're just going to avoid that, and we're just going to talk about these really important issues because, we have limited time. So we like to make sure we use it wisely. So here, like, can we? I'm just. Are any of you sick of this? Because I'm sick of this. I think they did better than the Biden debate, but that's not saying much. That's not saying much. Like, I don't know. It's with many of these things, I kind of fluctuate between anger and depression with this because it's just like, for God's sake, like we Trump is right when he says that we're a sinking ship. Um, I agree with him there. I don't necessarily agree why he says we're a sinking ship, but I think the conclusion is correct. Maybe not how he got to it. Um, I'm really not a fan of Trump, but it is like, why are we not addressing these issues? And then he rightly points out, Trump rightly points out that uh, at the end of the debate, he was like, "Why did if Kamala wants to make all these changes, why haven't the changes been made um, in the past 3 years? Because she's been in office. She's not the president, but she's the vice president." Um, I don't exactly know how it works, so it could be said that she already has made a lot of changes and she just wants to make new changes. But like, it's funny because like it brings up the broader point of like every single election we have, it'll always be like, oh, we're starting a new chapter. We're gonna rebuild from the destruction that happened before. Like every single time, like why is it always we got to start from square one? Like why is it always like, oh, well, the last 4 years were useless, so now these 4 years are going to be the best ever? Like that doesn't give a very good prognosis for the country. You know what I mean? Like even if you agree with that statement, like that just means that every 4 years you suck. You know? And like even if you have a good president, well, oh look at that. The next 4 years you have a crappy president, and you got to redo everything else. Like that's what they're saying. And that's their campaign message. That's you know their propaganda ministry of Joseph Goebbels, who is telling them like, okay, you need to dodge every single question. Anything that makes you look in a negative light, you got to frame it in such a way that it makes you look better. And like you get a master's degree in these framing, probably like a PhD in how to frame everything. Um, so it looks good. And then, oh crap, I lost my point. But it's just like even what they say, if you take it at face value, like, oh, we're going to start a new chapter. What do you mean? What do you mean? Because you're already in the chapter, man. You like in reference to Kamala Harris, you are the um the vice president. So like you're going to start a new chapter on something that you're already doing. Like, do you want to explain that to me? And like with Trump, like he'll be like, oh well, the country was ruined in 4 years. Like, really? All your policies were overturned, etc. Like it's just it's it's imprecise, and I know that in regular speech you're imprecise, and right now I'm being imprecise, but it's just a lot of it doesn't have that much substance when you actually look at it, or if it the substance that it does have is really not that encouraging. Like, oh, we need to fight for democracy because every single fight is a huge fight, and they'll they'll do the same thing every 4 years, and oh no, this time it's really a bigger fight. And it just kind of reminds me of like a uh, the boy who cried wolf. It's just it has that tone to it, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's not true, but um, just why can't we just answer the questions? Why? Like I cynically I know why. Because it's not useful to kind of drill down on certain issues. But like